Uh-oh. What episode are we on? I
What
think like
episode are
six.
we
I'm
on?
going to just say 16 because that's what I think we're on.
Throw our money
Maybe
down.
17. I don't
Maybe
know.
17. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome,
Hey,
welcome.
thanks for listening. Still,
Yeah. It's a
if
real
you're
pleasure.
here, we appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a pleasure to have people tune in. More and more people keep messaging me and be like, "Oh, it's our podcast." So I appreciate
cool.
every extra person that says that and listens to our shenanigans.
I think I read the comments on one of our postings the other day, and I was reading through and I looked at it and I thought, I'm pretty sure that's Paul's mom and somebody else in Paul, maybe Paul's aunt. So,
Okay.
Paul's mom and aunt, thanks for listening. Appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's kind of a funny like dynamic to be doing podcasting, because I was listening to somebody and they're like, you kind of have to be like, or actually I think it was on Matt's podcast even. So he was saying, it's like you kind of have to be an arrogant person to like just kind of speak out there and just expect people, or put your ideas out there and just have people like pay attention or like expect people to pay attention to you and what you're saying. You have to like,
true.
It's like a little active ego in a sense, to like, assume that what you're saying is worth hearing by somebody.
Yeah.
At least with us, I think it's like we enjoy hearing each other. So whether or not anyone else hears, it's kind of, just bonus if they like it.
Yeah.
And find some value from it. So
that's, I mean, two things to say after that. One, you're totally right. I enjoy just talking with you, even if nobody was listening. Mm-hmm. But also, you're probably not the arrogant one here. I'm pretty sure I'm the one with enough ego and arrogance to go around. So it's probably mostly my arrogance, just boldly proclaiming podcast. Whatever the heck I want. And you're probably the normal person with more humility. So
I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah. But
did Matt say that when he was recording with us or on his own podcast?
I think on one of his own. I've been listening to his. Okay. So we'll give him a free shout out here.
Yeah.
The first one's free. After that.
First one's free. Yeah. After that, you have to pay us, Matt.
Get sponsored by us.
Yeah.
See how much his traffic goes up. But yeah, so we'll dive right into the topics here. I'll go first.
Yeah.
I got it locked and loaded.
Working on the ego.
Yeah. So my thing, and I feel like I've probably talked about this in some version or another. It's not AI again, so everyone can rest easy. Take a deep breath. But basically, like the intuition spirit, I don't know, not debate, but just like that never-ending not even problem, just like a never-ending mystery, I guess is what it is, of basically a life guided by an inner voice or like an inner guidance system. And so that's what I want to explore, because for me, I felt it pretty strongly. So I played like a card tournament this weekend, and it was like I put a lot of prep going into it. I had, like there was a lot of opportunities to stress out about different things like for this tournament and surrounding it. Like what deck to play, what kind of opponents I can expect, how to best prepare for it, where to play games, all this kind of stuff, where to get the best strategy from, nerd stuff. So, like I had this like early on in that process of getting ready for it, probably a couple weeks in advance. I kind of had like this intuition or like a real strong gut feeling, and like I didn't want to stress, and like I had this almost, I guess like, I don't know if it was like an out, but it felt like I had this world here of like, stress or like overthinking, and then I had like another option over here of like none of that, and like a pretty just clear intuition about like what hero should I play and like to not worry about it. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So I tried to like follow that thread all the way leading up to the tournament, and just to like kind of trust, I guess, the process. And so it was a very like interesting thing, because I like to analyze things. I like to think about things. And this is like very much the opposite of that. Where it's like, it's an answer. And that's like, in a weird sense, all I've been looking for up until that point, is like some clarity or some like direction or like purpose, or not purpose, but direction or like clarity on what strategy or what deck to go with, And so then I get this answer, but then it's like for some reason that's not good enough, It's like an answer that feels like it has some peace and it has some like, it provides some of the answers as well, to be redundant, but for whatever reason that's like not good enough, and I still like want to rethink that. And it's like so weird, like I have this like perfectly good answer, I feel like, that like feels right in some way in my mind, but at the same time like I want to fight it the whole time and like be like, no, I'm just telling like that answer is wrong because 15 other reasons, or like trying to come up with like counter arguments to why that's not the legitimate answer that I need or something, And so it's super weird dynamic. So I tried to like, follow that through like the whole way. And so I ended up like playing the deck that I felt like I should, and didn't know exactly why or whatever, but I ended up having like a really good tournament experience. I did like the best I feel like I played the best I have at a tournament before. And like, I don't regret any of my play. I feel like I played almost flawlessly, which is like surprising for me. I usually come away with some big like play regrets, but yeah. And so then like, I didn't win or anything. I got 5th. And, but yeah, like coming away from that, like I felt like I had played the deck I wanted to. I played the game I wanted to. I'm sounding like a Survivor contestant now.
You're sounding like somebody who's commentating on their own like role in the World Cup or something. I kicked the ball and I tried to get it into the net, and I did the best I could. I ran around a lot. Yeah,
like the post-game interview.
Post-game interview. That's what we're doing right now with you. Yeah.
So it's like. And then from that, then I had like extra clarity about like how I wanted to interact with the game moving after that. And like, it felt like a whole chapter was wrapped up, in a way that like left peace in my mind and closure. And so like, I feel like it stemmed from just trying to go through the process with as much integrity as possible and as much acceptance as possible, I guess.
Wait, so yeah, when you say integrity, because it's not like integrity towards another person, it's like integrity towards yourself. So it's like, what kind of integrity are we talking about? Like you were honest with yourself or true to yourself or something like that? Or what were you thinking with that?
I think a lot of times, like the integrity, I kind of conflate it with honesty in some ways. Or like a certain self-actualization, the right word here? Or is it more like a self-reflection?
I don't know. It's too complicated for me.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like, just being like very open. Cause I think like, integrity is, like a lot of times it's doing the right thing when nobody's looking and stuff. So it has a lot of different connotations. So yeah, I guess in that scenario, integrity to me would be more like, honest self-reflection and being humble and being open. Like those are big things and it's not even like you have to like kill your ego or something, but it's just like, it's almost getting out of the way or like trying to quiet some of those other voices to be able to like really sit in the moment and just understand where that like inner voice is calling you, or that, that thing is guiding you too. So like, that's what I was going to kind of like explore or think about was, what is that inner voice? Like, do you feel it strongly? Because I know we've talked about like kind of conscious before, I think, and we've talked about, maybe that's all we've talked about. But yeah, do you feel like you have an inner like guiding principle, spirit, that like not just conscience, like telling you when something's good or bad, but like if you really like are sit and are quiet, do you feel like there's something, and you remove some of that noise and distraction, do you feel like there's something guiding you, or like you could have an audible, not even audible, but a clear inner voice telling you what to do next at any given moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a inner voice or some kind of guidance that occurs. Now, I don't know if I would always say that's from one source, you know, like it's not always this mathematical, logical equation of my brain that's like, first I do step one, then step two. Sometimes it's just like, I need a nap. I don't know, you know? But I mean, when I talk about the source, it's like this sensation of what should I do right now with my life? I think that can come from your own natural biological instincts. I am sleepy right now. I am hungry right now. I am whatever. But I think that can also come from even a different kind of biology, your emotional response, what's happening in your brain, where it's like, this person cut me off in traffic. I feel angry. And what I feel like doing right now is cutting them off now in traffic. You know, that's some kind of deep internal like sensation of what should I do, my decision-making process. But that, you know, those are things where it's like, well, good moral behavior and discipline dictates that I should probably think more logically and resist against these inner, you know, inclinations of my heart right now.
Deep breath. Fight the biology.
My inner heart is saying, you know, what are all the strange expletives I can say as fast as possible out my window? Yeah, but it's like I resist those, right? Versus other things where, yeah, like in your circumstance, what's an inner voice where I need to be paying attention to it and listening to it, you know, the subconscious that is helping me do the right thing. And again, I think a few different sources for that. You know, it could just be that you have trained yourself, you have the skills, you've analyzed the situations over and over and over again, that you can just, as you said, trust the process. You know, you have trained yourself so that you know how to ride a bicycle. You don't need to think about riding a bicycle anymore. You've got the instincts to ride a bicycle. That's coming from your own practice and skill development. You know, or it could be something that's even like a little bit deeper than that. Like, okay, should I, you know, go join the military during World War II and fight against these forces? Or do I believe that I shouldn't be killing? Or what's this big moral dilemma that I have? And what should I do with the rest of my life? And this is like a huge, like moral, theological, you know, ethics of the world, global, you know, question that I have. That's bigger than just my hunger pains, than my skills of how I've trained things. This is like, you know, I need like the divine inspiration of God, you know, speaking to my heart, telling me what I should be doing right now with my life. Like, what is my inner voice there? So I definitely think, to answer your question, like that there is some kind of inner guiding that everybody has, but I just think that it comes from a lot of different sources. And depending on the source and the circumstance, some things you need to lean into that inner voice and receive it. And some of it, it's like, well, maybe you should resist that because that's not really the inner guiding that would be like the right thing. I don't know. I'll try to end my little summary right there.
No, it's
that
good.
Answers your question.
That leaves me with 3 things now.
Okay.
It's multiplying.
We've multiplied the bread and the fish. Okay. Let's go.
So the first point would be like, what's interesting about the, oh my gosh, I already lost the second one. Need to write these down.
Listen to your heart.
Listen to my heart. Yeah.
Watch a Disney movie. Use your inner voice. I am your inner voice, by the way. Right now.
I'll go with the first one because I'll remember it. And I'll probably pick up the second one, third one by then. But the first one is the interesting thing with like, so you said there's, you know, like with the food, and, you know, it's like your biology is guiding you in some sense. When like when that happens, oh, I remember my second question. When that happens, basically what's interesting though is like sometimes it might not even be the right time to eat. So it's like, your biological intuition might be telling you to eat and stuff your face or whatever, but there's like a variety of reasons why you might not, maybe you're spiritually fasting. Maybe the food you're craving is junk food, so it's like in those spots, something overrides that intuition to like keep you from, or like you should probably abstain from that, even though you're like that intuition is telling you that. So in that sense, like that intuition could be wrong sometimes. The other thing that was interesting was, like Krista and I were kind of talking about this, but basically like there might be a difference between like what I'm calling intuition here and like emotional need or like emotional drivers for behavior. And so it's like, because when you like are having your inner monologue or your inner thoughts or feelings, a lot of times that intuitive voice that just feels right is very different from how your emotional state is going. It almost like it can like cut through that sometimes, where it's very like juxtaposed to like the inner turmoil or something, where it's like, it's this like, I would almost describe as like a orb of peace or something, of like tranquility in like a stormy ocean around, or like circling thoughts or whatever. And it's like this whatever transcendent thing that is outside your own like emotional state, good or bad. It might also like bring you down to earth when you're too high or something, like that kind of thing. So yeah, there's like, for me, like intuition has always been kind of separate from the emotional side of things too, where it's like, it's very distinct. Like it can sometimes cause emotion, like tapping into that or feeling that or seeing that, but it feels very separate from the emotion, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, so for me, it feels very separate from both the physical and the emotional component. And it's like some transcendent thing. But the question I was going to ask you, the third thing, was basically, so you mentioned like, okay, the World War II example, and you're maybe seeking some divine inspiration or something. So it's like, and let's just assume you get it. Like, how often do you think that, like, could you identify that divine inspiration feeling if you got an answer?
Right. Yeah. So that's a good question. And I think that requires discernment, because again, you have a situation where it's like, okay, my survivalist instinct as a human being is probably telling me I should run away, skip the draft, hide, do not fight. Then there's kind of this, well, but maybe it would be a moral, ethical thing to like go and do, face the risk of death to try to fight evil. Right. And then, then it comes down to like is there some divine providence speaking to me? Is God's voice telling me in my inner heart, you should go have a milkshake, I don't know, whatever it is, run away, go fight, whatever the thing is. How do you discern all of those different voices? I think that does take a certain level of like human maturity to know yourself, right? Like, okay, well, of course I want to run away from something that's hard or difficult. Like that's just kind of a natural human instinct. Like, okay, I recognize that in myself, some self-awareness. But then I think also thinking above yourself when it comes to the idea of morality and a divine voice, I think that's a higher level of thinking and discernment that's then getting outside of yourself. And I think that sometimes that level of discernment is not necessarily a skill that you're like developing. I think that might be something that's given from God. Choosing to believe in God, he gives you his Holy Spirit. He gives you the ability to hear what he's saying. And so that might even be a gift. I don't know if that could even be developed.
Yeah. Do you, like, what percentage of the time would you say you feel like you correctly get it, or like do you feel like there's times when it's like there's a given, not direction, right? Yeah, maybe direction's the right word, but there's like a given word or direction. Like what percentage do you feel like you get it every time it's given? Do you feel like there's times you miss it, or do you feel like you barely get it, like when it's given?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, in terms of my decision-making processes in life, again, I'm a very logical, analytical person. So I'm very much looking at like, what does the Bible say on this moral issue? How do I make a calculated, I am pros and what are the pros and cons here? Murder people, don't murder people. I'm kind of like weighing things out that way in my mind, so basing off of what the Bible says and things like that. In terms of decision making I've made where maybe there wasn't like a big moral dilemma. Maybe it was, option A and option B are equally moral. There's not really some like sin issue. I'm not doing anything wrong picking one or the other. Do I want chocolate or vanilla? There's nothing that's really like immoral about it. But I feel like, you know what? I really think right now God wants me to
your biology on that one.
I think. Do I default to my biology? No, I think
on the chocolate versus vanilla, whatever your taste buds are craving at that moment.
I mean, usually my taste buds are craving vanilla. I just like vanilla a little bit better, so that's kind of my default.
White boy. No, I'm just kidding.
But I don't know. I mean, I like dark chocolate.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Bar or whatever. But
I like all ice creams equally. Okay,
I like all the ice creams. All the ice creams are great. No, I'm pretty much going lactose. I'm going like lactose free right now, so I'm not really doing any of that stuff actually. But if it came down to something that was morally ambiguous, to more morally equal decisions, the percentage of how often I have those decisions and I'm making it based off of like a gut instinct of what God's trying to tell me, I think is like almost none. I feel like there's only been a couple times in my life that I can point to with absolute confidence and say, that was a moment where I really had no idea what to do. And I just felt this overwhelming impression that God spoke to me. I need to do this decision. And I did it. And it was like, that was a great decision. Super glad I made that. Ooh, thank you, God.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess that's what I was kind of getting at is like how, like, do you feel like those big decisions were the only time that like he's spoken to you, or do you feel like there's other times when there's been maybe those opportunities, but like you haven't been aware of it? Yeah, I guess my ultimate question is like, how often does like at that point God speak to you? And it's like whether you're able to pick up on it or not. Like how often are those opportunities presented, but we're not aware of them?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not aware of it, then who knows? Like maybe God is influencing all kinds of decisions that I'm making. He's creating certain leanings within my mind or heart, or, giving me a certain inclination of a feeling. I feel like going to the gym 5 minutes early today. And then I bump into somebody I wouldn't have seen otherwise. It's who knows, unpredictable, in that type of circumstance. I don't know. But in terms of what I could be aware of, I feel like just those two, one specifically that I would say, I think, and then a couple others that maybe I could point to where I feel somewhat confident. I feel like those are my only examples I can think of in my life that I'm like, yes, that was God speaking to me.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I think those opportunities get presented a lot. And like you said, you kind of pick up on them subconsciously. I think if you're living a truth aligned life, like I think, you'll just naturally kind of fall into the rhythm of those patterns. But do you have like an intuition on how, because it's hard to be aware of those things. If, like you said, if you're not aware, you just never would know if God was speaking to you or not, but I guess my leading questions are bringing to the point that like, I do feel like those opportunities to interact in that very cognizant way, knowing that like you're being given guidance or counsel is a lot more readily available than most people think, I would guess. And that like it's more, the opportunities are being presented constantly, but it's just our own modes of operation that are getting in the way of that, if that makes sense. So like, to use like an example for myself, it's like, you know, I might get presented with that opportunity, or like I don't even actually take the opportunity most of the time, you know, because I'm driven by like something that just makes sense to my brain. And it's like, well, like that's just how it's done, or like that's just the most obvious thing. And it's like, maybe I'm operating from my biology or my emotion, and I never stop to even ask and check that intuition first, you know, for that like spoken word. And like, it's not necessarily like a spoken word exactly, but like to even stop in and like check in and just see like what is, like, is my intuition telling, or like check in and say like, is this intuition above me telling me anything about this moment, you know? And so I think that's like really hard to do because you have to slow down, and it's not always, like, a lot of the times I know for myself, when I feel like I didn't get an answer, it's because in my like example leading up to this tournament, like I instantly or almost instantly discounted that intuition by like overthinking it, or by like second guessing it instantly, and just being like, well, like that couldn't have been what I heard because this reason, you know, or whatever, instead of just like understanding that, you know, like I think you have to like almost trust yourself in some way to be like, you know, I heard this intuition and I'm going to go for it, even though it doesn't seem, you know, like every like inner critic in me is telling me otherwise, but like I'm just going to trust this, and like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But what I've found is most times it does work out, and better than you expect, you know, like especially as you get better at discerning that voice and better at like understanding that voice, it really like starts to, I think, transform like life in a weird way, because like that voice and that intuition doesn't play by standard rules, you know, or it doesn't follow like any logic but its own, you know, like kind of like, I think you look at, you know, biblical stories, it's like if you tried to explain that logic to anybody else, it's like it doesn't make sense, you know. It's like you have to follow its own internal logic to like find the truth in it, and to find like how it all like weaves together into this like bigger picture. So yeah, I don't know, just and my mom and I were kind of talking about this the other day, where like, this is a little bit of a tangent, but you look at the basically like looking at, you know, kind of the path of trying to reform a system versus reforming a system versus like innovating and transcending the system. This is like a real tangent here. but basically, like, because we were talking about, you know, the government and all this stuff, and like how, you know, COVID's crazy, and, you know, people are moving to Idaho to like, you know, make their, you know, their conservative cults and all this kind of stuff to fight the wokeness and do this and that. And I'm like, I don't know, like I see kind of every big spiritual breakthrough has happened not because like people changed the cult, like they did change the culture, but not because they like fought the culture, but because they like showed a new way of doing things and like progressed, you know, the story of like God and his spirit on this earth. And so I think like even Jesus was the prime example of that. You know, it's like he showed up, everyone's like, good, you're here to kick out the Romans, you know, like everybody in the past, you know, it's like if you want to establish a kingdom, you destroy the, you know, occupying nation, or you battle them out and then you make your own kingdom. Like that's how it's done. And, you know, Jesus flips the script and he says like, no, that's not, you know, there's like this way that like no one even imagined that, like, you know, this is how you establish a kingdom. And it's like, whoa, okay, like complete paradigm shift. And so I think like there's always those opportunities throughout life to like, you know, follow that intuition, which would seem crazy, you know, as it did to, I'm sure, countless people in the past, you know, like, do you think John the Baptist like thought, I mean, maybe like if anyone saw that, there's like, that's a screw loose, you know? And it's like, he was following whatever that spirit was. And it just like led to like weird situations, weird things, but it like led to a new way of doing things that was outside of any logic that people would have brought to the table at that time, I guess, in my understanding. So yeah, I think it's a powerful thing. But yeah, do you have any thoughts about that or closing thoughts? I kind of went on a rant there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is interesting, you know, because it's something that you can use for the process of decision making, like we've been talking about in our examples, you know. And I think that is like a big aspect of some kind of guiding inner voice or things like that. But I think also it can be used in other circumstances. You know, I mean, it's basically like a messaging system between something in your conscious mind, you know, a messaging system from your body, from God, from maybe your subconscious of how you've learned something in the past. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like an interesting messaging system. So it's like, it doesn't always have to communicate a positive, negative on a decision, you know, yes, no, left, right, blue, green, whatever it is. It could be something different, you know, it could be like, here's a comfort for what you need right now. Here's peace of mind on something. Here's, you know, I don't know, maybe some other kind of message that could occur into your mind as a sensation, not necessarily just associated with the decision.
Yeah,
and
like
I think
a verbal
that can
answer
also be like another, yeah, you know, I think that can also be like another aspect of an intuition or an inner voice.
Yeah,
that would maybe be my only addition. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think too, like, you know, during, like, people are preoccupied by the answer, but a lot of times the groundwork gets laid when you even ask the question. You know, it's like if you frame the question in an incorrect way, or you know, or you have a certain predisposition to how you need to hear or feel like you need to hear, like that's going to limit you in the answers you get as well. So it's like, you know, someone's like, I need a better housing situation. So, you know, I'm going to just pray and then wait for a better house to come along, you know? And it's like, cool. Except maybe God was calling you to be homeless. And like, you're going to get a new housing situation, but it wasn't the one you wanted, you know? And so it's like, that might just be like out of the question, you know, it's like, you're not even thinking in that direction because you're thinking the completely opposite direction. And it just like totally limited what you could hear, you know? So that's all.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's the classic Pirates of the Caribbean scenario where she wasn't very specific and she was like, I want you to release me and make me free. Okay, I agree. You didn't say where, you didn't say when. I'm dropping you off on this island when we decide to. Yeah.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, let's wrap it up there then, if that's cool with you.
Cool, man. Yeah,
right.
The inner voice. All right, people.
Yeah, intuition.
I think what your inner voice is saying, listeners, and I am your inner voice because you're listening to me right now, is that you need to subscribe to our podcast. That's what it's saying. And tell your friends to listen to it. Okay, shameless
I heard
plug.
That too. That's
shameless
weird.
Plug right there. A lot of people probably heard this inner voice all simultaneously, which confirms that it was real. Okay.
And not mass psychosis.
Yeah, mass psychosis right there. Funny. Yeah, okay. My thing that is inspiring to me that I've been thinking about a lot recently in the past couple of weeks is the idea of friendship, which is fun that I get to talk about with my friend here, Paul. So,
convenient.
Hey, we're going to talk about friends. Yeah, convenient. What if I was talking about this with one of my enemies? That would be difficult.
Awkward.
Yeah, no, friendship, and particularly the idea of deep friendship, you know. And first, I just want to say, you know, what the beauty is, you know, the benefits, like what is the inspiring aspect of friendship? You know, I think that it's fun. It's different from marriage. It's different from like siblings or family. It's different from like coworker relationships. I feel like in a friendship, there's a lot of play. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughter. But then when you get to deeper friendships, there can be, I think there's sort of a room for a safe space to express things that you don't always get in like a workplace environment. You know, if you're working for your boss and you're like sharing some vulnerable details of your life, or even one of your coworkers, it's like, well, maybe they're
shouldn't be knowing that.
Yeah, like maybe they shouldn't know that. Maybe they don't want to hear you like vent about your life, or, you know, it's like at a certain point, it's like unprofessional or like workplace boundaries, or, you know,
I'm not paying you for your feelings.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to hear you, you know, blab on about whatever's going on in your life while I'm working here. Like, hello, trying to serve coffee. But I think, you know, and then sometimes in parent relationships, there can be like a good room for vulnerability, or there can be guidance. But I think sometimes for parents, and no offense to the parents listening, but I think sometimes with parents, if they hear vulnerable things from their kids, there can be sort of a need to like fix it right away, or like, oh, I have to like criticize my child or make them perfect or whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's always like the just sit and listen and the empathy and like, oh man, that's tough going through that or whatever it is.
Easy
like
to get
sometimes
triggered for a parent, you know, like if you're someone you care about, like doing something. Yeah. And there's like just always the assumption, and probably rightly so, that they're more, you know, mature and, you know, have more answers about life. But,
yeah. I think parents have this instinct that they need to like always take care of their kids. And sometimes it can be hard for parents to like let kids experience some kind of suffering, you know? And, anyway, so, you know, just the idea that a deep friendship is different. I think there's that fun play aspect of it. There's that safety, that you can be really vulnerable with this person, you know? And I feel like friendships are one of those things where, yeah, sometimes they come and go, you know, in certain ways, but they can also be something that really stays with you for the rest of your life. And friendships can really define who you are. You know, there's that quote that like people around you kind of change you, you know, the 5 closest people or whatever it is.
You're like a combo of like the 5, closest people.
Combination of like the 5 people you spend the most time with, or there's different ways of quoting it. But I just think that friendships and friend groups, especially in younger, like adolescent years, really develop who a person becomes when they get older. They're really your peer group. You know, you kind of like will lift up yourself with the peer group. If they're going up in a certain direction, you kind of go up in that certain direction too, you know?
Yeah.
And just how that really changes you. And I just think about a few things in the Bible talking about friendships, like Jonathan and David, where they had this deep friendship where they loved each other. And, you know, Jonathan like had, you know, they like swore to take care of each other's families. But wait, what are you laughing about?
I think I remember what you were telling me last week.
Oh yeah, because we were talking about this a little bit, yeah. But, you know, just how like Jonathan had a son and David became the new king, and he swore to Jonathan, like, when I become king, I'm not going to kill your family. I'll take care of them, which was like very unusual for a new king to do with like a previous dynasty, you know, of a kingdom, and out of their
pretty
friendship.
Standard nowadays, not to.
Yeah, today that's
Jeff
pretty
Bezos
normal.
isn't out there killing Elon Musk when he takes over Tesla in 2 years.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, you know, hopefully people don't do that kind of stuff today. It's not quite as normal, you know. But yeah, back in that day, it was like, I'm the new king, kill everybody who could potentially be a future heir, you know. But yeah, just some of the power of friendship, you know, a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And Christ said to his disciples, you know, they'll know you by your love for one another and things like that. And just the beauty of having good friendships and things like that, you know. So one of the things I was going to talk about with this is, you know, that's what I think is really inspiring about friendships, just how it adds to people's life, changes life. You have more fun, you have connection with people. I think it's really great. But I think that there is kind of a problem not with friendship, but with the lack of friendship that I see in culture today, both men and women, but I'll specifically speak about men just because I think I see that maybe a little bit more being a man. And I think that there's a lot of struggles in life that men have where I think men feel like they have to go solo with it. Different depressions, anxieties, feeling imposter syndrome, not knowing what to do with their careers, job, money, providing all kinds of different things. And sometimes there's kind of that lone wolf mentality. Like, I'm going to be the James Bond, the Clint Eastwood. I'm going to like do it all on my own, you know? And I just think about how important it is for men when they have that like band of brothers, you know, they've got that, like, I know these guys, they know me, we're in this together. We're the Spartans fighting the Persians. We're the guys in World War II, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be in the military. It could be something else. But
yeah, well, that's where you usually see those bonds the strongest.
Yeah, I think it comes from a certain degree of like suffering and shared like risk and pain that people have, you know? And so just thinking about how I feel like there's such a need for that in the masculine climate of today's world, you know? I feel like it's easy to grow soft in comfort. And I think that it's easy to feel like you have to have your achievements on your own shoulders and can't like have people around you or things like that. You know, I know that I've definitely felt that in my own life where it's like, I have to do something that's all my own. And like, I can't have like my friends help me or my family, or it has to be me, you know? And
takes away from your accomplishment.
Yeah, I think that's just ego, you know, like I already talked about earlier, I've got an ego. So anyway, I think it's just some of that, but anyway, all of these things that I'm talking about here, just the importance of friendship, the benefits of friendship. I want to bring it into some questions I wanted to ask you. I have remembered sometimes when we have hung out together, not interactions that we've had with each other, but interactions we've had with other people, where certain people have assumed that they were close friends with us. And do you remember, are you thinking of the time that I'm thinking of right now, where they were like, yeah, we're friends. And you were like, yeah, we're like associates. Remember? Like, we're like acquaintances. You know, there were some different definitions of the depth of the friendship. Yeah.
I would like to think I phrased it better than that, but maybe not.
I might not be.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Recounting your word for word story there, but you know, just
I said it harsher than I should have.
the idea that people can have different perspectives on the depth of relationship, and how I think it's important for people to seek deep relationships. It made me curious from your perspective. What would you consider to be the characteristics of a deep friendship?
Well, one of my thoughts when you were talking about that was kind of one of the, I don't know if it's necessary for a deep friendship, but it's necessary for a good friendship, which is, I think, a certain level of like freedom, I guess. Freedom in like a lot of different vectors, but you know, you need freedom to like let people have time if they need it. You need freedom to let people be themselves when they need to be, you know. You need people to let people freedom and balance, I guess, is two things that I would say are come to mind as critical for good friendships. For deep friendships, oof. I think, vulnerability is a big one. Like vulnerability, trust, which just, I think a lot of times comes with time. You really need to just like kind of put in the time with people. Like I've kind of found that with like some friends where it's like, you know, you can jive right away and you can, you know, be like into the same things. You can have like common interests. You can have, you know, even a level of like trust as far as like, you know, like, I don't think this person's going to steal from me or something, you know, just like a basic level of trust of like that they're a good person, that like all this kind of stuff. But so like everything could be right like on a friend level, or like all the boxes are checked, but you don't have like, you know, the years of friendship behind that. And just for whatever reason, that just kind of keeps some of the depth at bay, I guess. Until you really just put in the time with somebody. But yeah, so I think, you know, the time that comes from that to build the trust, like that deep trust, like vulnerability, honesty. And like, I think the acceptance part and the freedom even runs down further into a deep friendship as well, because I think there's like different dynamics, and it's like people assume deep friendship and it's like, well, they just have to be like spilling their guts to each other all the time, or, you know, it's like, you know, or like, you know, you would have to like lend this person all your money if they needed it or something, you know, like whatever that is. But like, not everyone's dynamic is that way, and not everybody like needs the same things. So, you know, I think that acceptance of just realizing like, you know, maybe you have a relationship where you like don't share everything, and it's like, that doesn't inherently mean you don't have a deep relationship. I think it just means like both people kind of know what they want out of that relationship, I guess, and are like accepting of that. And it's like, you know, you kind of are almost being like doing a service to them by like not always bringing up deep stuff, because it might be like emotionally hard on them, or it's like not their way of they even want to operate. And so like knowing somebody at a deep level requires like a certain level of flexibility and freedom in that to like to kind of navigate and bring out the best in each other, I think.
Yeah, that well said, man. You said a lot of good points there with that.
Something I think a lot about.
Yeah, good. I was going to ask also, do you feel like there is a limit to how many relationships you can have at different depth? You know, like if you have, you know, I'm just going to put it into like three levels here. Okay. So there's like the,
do you want me to pull out my chart? I have the layers and the levels.
Yeah. You have like a little chart, a friendship chart.
When I was in Hungary, I had I drew out like a, probably like 3 foot by 3 foot square. Started categorizing everyone in my life.
You just like have this right here?
I had it. Yeah. It's like tucked away somewhere. Yeah.
No way. Oh my gosh. I didn't know that. If I knew that,
the rankings have changed, people. The rankings have changed. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Wow. Okay. Yeah. This is a good topic. Gosh.
Mm-hmm. I told you I think a lot about it.
Has AI gone up on your friendship recently? Or no, I'm just kidding.
Watch out, Brandon. It's coming for you.
I'm
might dethrone you.
Next time you ask me some like opinion on something in your life, I'm going to quickly type it into AI and be like, what should I say back?
Minus 3 points.
3 points for Gryffindor. For their hug they gave me the other day. No. So, okay. What was I talking about? Okay. So let's just hypothetically, I'll just make it simple for the sake of our listeners and myself. There's deep friendships. There's like your average friend. You'd invite them to your birthday party, but you don't hang out like all the time, whatever. And then like the acquaintances, it's nice when you see them at the coffee shop randomly, but you don't really like go out of your way to hang out with that person. Okay. So kind of the distant, somewhere in the middle, and the really close. Okay. Do you feel like there's a certain number of how many of those people it's good to have in your life? Like, deep friendships, I just want 1 or 2 people. No, I could have like 10 people. I want, you know, this many people that's like, this is the right number of deep friendships. This is the right number of like average friendships. This is the right number of like distant friendships. Do you have any thoughts on that in your head?
I'm locked and loaded, dude.
Okay. Ooh, man. Wow.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I think that's the natural order of things to like have a progression like that, or like a tiered system. I mean, you just look at Jesus and it's like, you know, there's 1, then 12, then was it 44?
I think it was like
or something.
Well, because he had like the 12 disciples, and then I think there was an inner circle of like 3, like James, John, and Peter. And then after that, I think there was like the 72 that he sent out. I want to say.
I think you're right on that. But yeah, so it's like even there, it's like that tier of like how much you can impart to people, and it's like what's always struck me as odd is like even the disciples were asking the 3 other disciples to ask Jesus something. So it's like he might not even been like conversing with them like just freely all the time, like I'm sure he did at some points, but there might have been points where he wasn't, there's like a chain of command or something. But I mean, obviously it's hard to use that as like your example for everything in your daily life because it's like you're not Jesus, but and he has a very specific path. I do think there is like a level for each like amount at each level, essentially amount of people. I think that's determined though more like by personality and like what your own calling and personality dictates, because I think some people do maybe just have more to give emotionally, so they can have like more of those deep friendships where they're like constantly checking in and being intentional, and like that's their partially their calling. I think some person that's like an engineer somewhere isn't going to need like those 10 really close friends that they just will call it in the middle of the night, unless it's for like a technical problem. But so it's like they might need their mom and their being mean to engineers, sorry. They might...
All engineers have deep friendships with their moms, just FYI. Apparently
all the ones I know. It's like their mom, their girlfriend, and their friend from high school or something. It's like that's maybe all they whatever it is, and then their AI bot. But yeah, so I think it just it's determined by personality, like how many of those people can kind of fit into your inner circle. And then as far as like outer circle, I think you kind of described it well with people that you might hang out with once in a while and like maybe even intentionally, and then people like you would just see in passing, and make no intention to hang out with, but like are happy to see them, and it's like, oh cool, let's catch up or something, and talk where we are, not go get coffee, but so yeah, I don't know that there's like one amount for each tier though.
Okay, yeah, but it's like the deeper one is maybe just a few. The friendship one is maybe like a little bit more, and acquaintance, like a lot more. And that totally hear.
And it's just literally the amount of time and attention and energy you have in a day. Like it couldn't be any other way. It's like you couldn't have, your group of 80 people here that you're only slightly know at a very deep level. It would just literally take all your time. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay, next question. When it comes to the idea of cultivating friendships with people and things like this, in the idea of the deep friendships, okay, that was kind of what I wanted to focus on. What do you feel like it takes in order to maintain a deep friendship? There's somebody in your life that's like, I have a deep friendship with this person. I want to keep that friendship going. What would you say? And I know this could be different for everybody and different friends and contexts at least, but what would you think are some characteristics that like you got to call them every single day? You've got to, make sure you send them a happy birthday text on their birthday. I mean, what's the thing that you think you need to do for people?
Yeah, that's hard. Like, and that's where I would go use the intuition, because it's like, I mean, there is like a certain level of like knowing people, and you just kind of get to know people's preferences over time. And so it's like, it's going to be very situational depending on who it is. And I think that's what, like kind of what I was mentioning earlier with the good friendship about being adaptable. It's knowing that person and knowing what their, well, it's hard because sometimes like you want to accommodate them, but sometimes you need to challenge them as well. So it's like, it's a fine balance, which is why I think the intuition is great, because it kind of trumps the getting trapped in one rule or another. It's like, well, I don't know. Do I challenge them or do I do this? It's like that intuition is kind of that thing that can inform that. But I definitely think there's like good general things like you can do. It's like being intentional about checking in, taking time to listen, being available to help somebody in whatever capacity you can. Like, I think those are just pretty standard well, maybe, I don't know if they're standard, but, yeah, I think not, or like encouraging people in their pursuit of truth. Like, I think that's like, that takes a lot of different forms, but it's like it's very easy to kind of like squash somebody's journey a lot of times, I think. And you'll hear people kind of talk about like, drop the haters from your life, or drop, the friends that are, tearing you down type stuff. And it's like, I think that's a very reactionary way, or very like, reactionary way of seeing it. But like, I think there is like a very strong element of truth of that. Like, if people don't support you, it's going to be like really hard to progress in your own journey with those people, like if they're like, the first thing you tell them is like something cool or profound about you, and they're like doubting you, or, like, trying to talk you out of something, or, and there's a time and a place for constructive feedback or criticism. But if you're like sharing your heart and your hopes and your dreams with somebody, and like they're being discouraging, like first thing off the bat, it's like, A, it's going to keep you from sharing, and B, it's like going to be pretty demoralizing. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything that you
destroying psychological safety immediately? Anyway, what were we going to say?
Yeah. Is there any things that you feel like with that topic or that question that stand out to you?
I think it's interesting. I mean, I've known some people where, and I think as you get older, this kind of goes away a little bit, and I maybe it's a more of a ladies thing, but there's some people where it's like they have their exclusive bestie, and I do everything with my bestie, and then if that person somehow needs space or boundaries, or they're kind of like, hey, I can't like talk about my insecurities every single day, then the other person like can't handle it, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I have to like share every little meme and every TV show and every funny movie and every thought I just randomly had in my head. I like had to send to you right away.
Right now?
No, I'm not actually talking about being married. I'm talking about just people where it's like they can have a really high. No, I know. They can have like a really high quality of interaction with a person, and they almost need that like high of having that quality on a consistent basis, and they don't necessarily want to be able to like rest with, we had really good quality this one day hanging out, and I could wait a month and then we can come back and have some good quality again. Like, I trust that when I'm together with this person, the chemistry will happen and we'll be able to hang out and have just as good of a time every time,
It's almost like a constant reassurance or something.
Yeah. Like, there's some people who feel like if there isn't this high quantity of hanging out, then forget it. I don't even want this friendship anymore. And I'm not out of my own life, but just what people I've known have told me. They've had to like let go of certain friendships with people because they're like, yeah, that person wanted to hang out like constantly, and I just like had other things going on in my life. Like, I couldn't hang out like every day. It's like I work a job and stuff. And so I had to kind of let go of that friendship. And then that person like became really close with somebody else. And I just think it's interesting how sometimes different people, when they're seeking that deep friendship with somebody, they have like a need for that friendship to like meet their level of intensity. And I don't think everybody has that like same level of intensity when it comes to friendship. I mean, there are people who I'll talk on the phone maybe every few months or something, and I'll chat on the phone for like 30 minutes. And it feels like that is a quality 30 minutes with that person. I don't need to call them any more often than that. That was great. Perfect. See you in another 3 months or whatever, And to me, it's
10 minutes
like that,
a month. That's your allotment.
Yeah. It's like, to me, it's like that satisfies my deep friendship need with that particular person. I don't know. I feel like with you, because we have such a depth of friendship for a long time, I felt like even though we live, pretty close together, I actually felt like I needed more Paul in my life, and I think you maybe heard me like complain about that for a while, and that's when we started like talking on the phone and podcasting. And now I feel a little more satisfied, but it's like
still not in person, unfortunately, but yeah,
I know. It's like living 1 hour apart was like, oh, it's a little bit too much for me. Like, I need to like be closer so that I can see you more, and I think just because we have a good depth of friendship, it's like I need a little bit more of a Paul fix than maybe I've needed with other people, you know. But
appreciate that, man. Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
Anyway, I know that you'll need to go here in a little bit. Did you have a final thought or something?
I actually extended it, so I got till 5.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool, man. Let's keep going. Keep talking.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this conversation. So, no, I totally feel that, and I do think one good indicator for me of like how good a friendship is, I guess, is like how long I can just kind of be around the person in their vicinity without like needing a break, you know? And so, but again, that boils down to like the freedom aspect of it. You know, it's like, I feel like if I had needed to like just go write, you know, some fiction or something like off in the corner, like I could just do that, you know? And like, you'd be like, oh, okay. And then you'd like go figure out something to do for a while, you know, and it wouldn't be like, I don't feel constrained in any way. So, to me, that's pretty important, is like that freedom aspect. And then that's something that like I value in most of my close friendships, is like being able to say like off the wall stuff, or, you know, like spout something. And even if someone gives me a blank look, at least just let me say it, you know. I don't know. So, yeah. I think that's, you know, especially as guys, I think a lot of guys initially connect in friendship over some shared similarity, you know, like we have this thing in common. We both like to play Frisbee, and we both like burritos, and, you know, whatever the thing is. But eventually there comes a point where the relationship is going to hit some level of conflict where it's like, well, that's great that we had one thing in common, but now we discovered we have two things that are not in common, you know, and now, how do we wrestle with this conflict? And you're either going to hit the point where you can overcome that, and it's like the depth of the friendship is bigger than what you have in common. And what you have in common now is just sort of like a fun extra. It's not the relationship, or the relationship is trapped within what you have in common. You don't talk about the other things. You never really exist as friends outside of what you have in common, and that's it. You've hit a wall. You guys can't go past that, you know? And, you know, I think for us, we've just had so many things in common, and then even things that we didn't have in common. And whenever we've had something that wasn't in common, I feel like we kind of were able to reflect on that, analyze it, talk about it without being afraid of it, and then just be like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I like my music choices more in line with maybe other people in your family. And I don't, I go to the concerts that you go to, and you're thrilled, and I'm shivering in the corner. Like, why am I here? I hate this place. You know what I mean? And doesn't phase my friendship with you. It's just like, cool. I experienced this part of who you are. I accept that. And yeah, that's your thing. Cool, man. I'll go sit in a photography modeling room, and
that's right.
Wonder what I'm doing with my life, you know.
But you exposed yourself to a lot of cameras from me.
I did.
Never thought I would do that.
Yeah. But here we are, you know.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of like a, you know, form of acceptance, I would say. You know, just being like, okay, well, you're into that, cool. Like, I don't fully understand it, but I'll go along with it for a while, you know. It might not be like my career or anything. I'm not going to be a model, but, you know, I'll pose for some pictures, I guess, even if it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, and actually, that's a really good statement, you know. Like in deep friendships, because you're accepting that person, and the friendship goes beyond what you have in common, it challenges you to do something that's maybe uncomfortable, you know? And I think that's a way that it helps you grow as a person. You know, there's all kinds of stuff I've done with you, riding on the back of motorcycles, playing card games I would never normally play, even artistic things, you know, doing more paintings or thinking about art in general more, or deep thoughts. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you've challenged me with. Finger paintings. Stuff I wouldn't normally do, you know.
Yeah. No, Cooking. it's great for if you can kind of feel like, I guess, safe in that friendship, you can really like put yourself out there and like kind of experience someone else's world to some extent. I mean, it's like being married, you know. That's just like, you know, you get that. Maybe it's not as drastic as that, but it's like, you know, because at least you kind of, or at least with like same sex friends, it's like you kind of have like a level of understanding, unlike marriage, where a lot of times I don't feel like I have understanding, you know, just due to on my own end of things, you know. It's like I'm dealing with a lot of foreign situations, let's say. And so,
yeah, I mean, I'm, you know, at least I'm a man. I'm not like an alien or a woman. Oh my goodness. All right. For my female listeners, I'm sorry. It's right there. I just had to say it. Sorry, Deanna.
Hit the mute button. But yeah, you know, it's like, and yeah, like those differences are amazing. And that's what makes, you know, the whole marriage thing work and, you know, be such a journey. But, you know, at the same time, there is that like level of kind of understanding with, you know, like you were mentioning the Band of Brothers type thing, where it's like something about that really, like there's enough similarity in the face of hardship that it really like solidifies all the things that it means to be like a guy in some sense, you know. And like you kind of, it probably what the like that adversity does is like grinds down some of the external shell, you know, and you're left with like a very cohesive human experience of people, you know, in that sense. And like, yeah, everyone gets to experience the human condition or whatever, but it's like there is, you know, yeah. So, but yeah, it is interesting. I do like, I would like the whole point about, you know, kind of like being in a stressful situation, which increases that bonding. I don't know. Do you think people should just like seek out stressful situations with their friends?
I mean, maybe what people need to be doing is finding people who they have a little bit in common with, trying to have a stressful, suffering situation with that person, and then just let your freaky deaky out. That's going to be, you know, things that you probably don't have in common with that person. And if they still accept you and want to keep hanging out, then you found a buddy.
The friend test.
Yeah.
Should you
maybe
travel with
friend test?
Should you travel with people or something like a week after knowing them?
You know, okay, yeah. I mean, well, yeah. One, you could do. That's a great way to stress the relationship and let the freakiness out and all kinds of weird stuff. But that is an interesting thing that you brought up right there, because I was thinking about that actually earlier and I forgot to mention it. The idea of, and for anybody who's done traveling, and I feel like especially when you travel in Europe and you stay in hostels, or I don't know, there's an experience where you're around tons of people you've never met and you'll probably never see again. And there's sort of a weird vulnerability because there's like no risk with that person, you know? And I always feel like it's such a shame whenever I've traveled and really connected with somebody for like 2 hours on the train, and you get into these great conversations, and then you try to exchange info and you message each other on Facebook a couple times or whatever, but like realistically, you don't really, you know, stay in touch that well. And I've always felt like, oh man, what a shame. Like it started off so strong because there was no risk, you know, there was like complete vulnerability. You just say whatever, who cares what the other person says? I'll never see them again. Like they could just say whatever freaky thing they want. And like, I don't really care. Like, whatever, like, okay, weird guy, whatever. You just sort of laugh it off, you know? And it's always kind of made me think like, gosh, I need to treat people I see regularly like I'm traveling. You know, like how can I approach friendships with that? It's okay for me to be totally myself, totally authentic, and whatever comes out of them, I can handle it. I don't need to let it rub me the wrong way. If I was traveling right now, I wouldn't let anything bother me. It would all just be fun. Cool. Yeah.
It's just a challenge.
Yeah. Somehow though, you're like in your church home group and there's somebody saying something weird and it's like, whoa, man, like I can't handle you talking about something that I slightly disagree with. I don't like that guy. Gosh, you know, it's
probably
like,
split up the church over this.
Should probably all divide. There should be like a civil war in churches because of this guy. And it's like, okay, like, wow, I took myself seriously really fast. Like, why did I do that? You know?
Yeah.
You know, and that's like a me thing. It's like a my attitude.
Yeah. And then like, it is funny, like how different contexts will change your response to people big time. You know, it's like, or what preconceived notion you have about them. You know, it's like you might have your like your interesting uncle say something just like completely off the wall at Christmas, you know, but then, you know, someone says even something slightly inoffensive at church, and it's like, excommunicated, you know. It's like the weird context of, you know, where people are in their situation. Yeah. I always got a kick out of that.
Yeah.
Like very different standard.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. If you're in the right context with a group of people and you're all kind of joking and not taking each other too seriously, then you can say all kinds of weird things and everyone just kind of laughs and it's all good. And, you know, keeping that camaraderie, I think is, really important for, groups and friendships, you know?
Yeah. Why so serious?
We get kind of stale, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like, you know, maybe that's what you're referring to with like play and stuff, you know, in friendships and like kind of that, you know, that joking around and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think like just thinking about the concept of laughing, having fun, play, I feel like if I never had friends, I just had family, coworkers, married my wife, there were no friendships. I mean, I definitely like have fun. My wife and I tell jokes and we laugh and we play board games, and there's all kinds of like play and laughter that occurs with my family and maybe a little bit with my coworkers every once in a while. But I feel like a large portion of the total amount of fun and laughter I've had in my life has occurred through friends, through the hanging out with groups or the inside jokes with one friend. Or, I mean, there's been multiple times with you where I have like laughed so hard, my ribs were hurting. I'm like in physical pain because I'm laughing. My face is in pain. It's like, oh, I can't laugh anymore. Like my cheeks hurt. Oh my gosh. Because we just like watched a funny movie that you know, it's like, I have seriously watched movies probably with you, laughed like crazy. Actually, I think it was Hot Rod. Hot Rod. I watched that with you, thought it was so funny, showed my parents, and it was like, this is not funny. Oops, I should not have showed them. Why did I think that they would think this is funny, you know? And which, just for the sake of telling you how my wife is awesome, because I watched Hot Rod with my wife and I also laughed really hard until my ribs were hurting. So apparently I can do that with her and I can do that with you, but not Mom and Dad. Sorry, Mom and Dad. I don't think they listen to this anyway. But yeah, just, you know, there's a certain context in friendships where that play can really come out. And I think that totally changes your life, having that level of play all the time, you know?
Yeah. Because obviously there is like a balance there where, you know, it's like you can't play all the time and you can't be serious all the time. Is there like a balance to you that you feel like is healthy, or like obviously it's context dependent, but do you feel like there's kind of like if you were to like look at the average good friendship, do you feel like there's a certain level of each of those, like 60-40% or, you know, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that if things are serious all the time, then it can be exhausting. And sometimes things can be like needlessly serious. It's like, I don't really have anything that, you know, like life's good. Nothing bad happened. I don't know. It's like, there's nothing super serious to talk about here.
You're like, a bad thing could be coming.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Let's just pretend like a bad thing happened. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I think that there can be circumstances where there could be needless, serious conversations. You could talk about, you know, deep topics or concepts, but maybe it wouldn't be something that's like directly relating into your life or whatever. And I think that you could potentially, get to a point where it's like exhausting, like, oh man, all we ever do is like these crazy, like priestly confessionals of all this deep stuff. Like, I can't handle that, you know? I think that could possibly be overdone. But I feel like just on the other side of the spectrum, without some kind of depth of conversation, it's really hard to feel like you have that vulnerable connection with another person. You know what I mean? I think
always joking around.
Yeah, if all you're ever doing is joking around about stuff and that's like your bond, I feel like that's a great way to get the fire started, but it doesn't keep the coals burning through the night, if that makes sense.
The first time something gets serious, everyone's like bails out. Like,
Wait, say it one more time.
Oh, like as soon as stuff gets serious, and some people like bail out, and you're like, "Oop, this isn't what I signed up for." Like,
yeah.
You
know, there can be, either when something gets serious, in terms of like somebody having a serious need in their life, or maybe it's like something emotional, like somebody's really sad for the first time, angry, celebrating something, although that's might be a little bit easier. I think that those can be hard things to either expose to somebody, or if somebody's exposing it to you, maybe it's hard to like handle that. Like, whoa, this guy got really sad. What do I do with him? I guess I'll just leave him alone. Like, I'll just, he looks depressed right now. I guess I'll just go,
It's like the exact opposite of what they wanted.
And yeah, maybe
in some cases, yeah.
Yeah, some cases, maybe it's like, oh yeah, I just want to be left alone because I'm sad. Or maybe that's just them not knowing how to be sad around their friend, I feel like I had that when my grandpa passed away, and I didn't know how to tell my friends, specifically you. I did not know how to say like, yeah, my grandpa passed away and I'm really sad right now. I don't know how to say that right now, and I think that was just me in general, not knowing how to express sadness in my life, and that was when my sister had to like text you and be like, our grandpa passed away. Like, do you know that? And you can come to the funeral if you want. Like, I just didn't know how to express that to people,
No. Do you feel like, so like to even tie this into like the whole, group of guys thing or whatever, do you feel like maybe some of that sadness or seriousness is a way to, or like maybe intensity of emotion or something is a way of like creating that external stress or bonding? Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Like,
that's interesting.
Like, is that more intense emotions that just come from life? Is that like an external, like when you experience those things together, is that like that similar bonding maybe?
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that actually, but that is interesting because, I think that a lot of relationships build the bonding when there's shared suffering together. But if one person's suffering, then how could it be shared? Only if the other person has a degree of empathy and they are able to like take on the feelings and acknowledge them and maybe feel things with the other person and sort of like live through that experience with them. Then it sort of becomes this shared suffering together. So yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's a really good point.
And you can kind of you can find enough suffering in life, so you don't really have to go out looking for that.
Yeah.
I can find you.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
That's a really great topic though. I like all this stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, I was thinking about it recently because, I've always been, I don't know what it is inside of me, but I've always just felt like it's easy for me to make friends with people. But most of the friends I make fit into that acquaintance, sort of maybe more average friendship area. It's just, you can't always pull everyone right in close. You don't have the time and it's hard and you have to build it and things. And I feel like it's really easy to make lots of friends, but that idea of like, what does it take to create a deep friend? And I just feel like throughout my life, I look back and I just think I've been blessed with like many deep friends I've had through the majority of my life. And I have talked to other people in the past where I've asked them about friendships, like, who have been some of your closest friends? And, what are your friendships and things like that? And I've heard many, many people tell me, I don't know, I don't feel like I have a lot of like super deep friends. Like there's just sort of people I know, Yeah. And it's always kind of shocked me when I hear that.
I would say, you're probably more the exception than the rule, especially in this day and age.
Yeah. And so it's a topic that I feel like it's weirdly come naturally to me, and trying to analyze my own, like, what do I do? Like, how did that work out so well for me? Like, I don't know. How did I have so many great friends? Like, I've always looked at it as there's something circumstantial that was outside of my control. I just happened to like know a ton of great people. It's not me, it's them. And I think that is like, I've been exposed to a lot of great like spheres of environments of people where I've had great friendships, but there's got to be something that maybe it was just nurtured into me by my parents or instinctual, or I don't know what it is. There's got to be something that I've done that has somehow been able to like help me keep friends for a long time. And I'm trying to like analyze that so that I can give that to other people, because I want other people to have really good friendships too, because I just see how powerful that is.
I think, yeah, I mean, having a good upbringing helps tremendously in that. But I think like what the good upbringing does is gives you like a level of trust and openness that you might not otherwise have, because you have to be like a little bit, like I was mentioning at the beginning, you have to be a little bit vulnerable, I think, to start a friendship, you know. It's like a lot of times you have to take the first step, and like a relationship without vulnerability isn't going to go anywhere. You know, it's like if your walls are up, it's like no wonder you feel like you don't have any close friends. Your walls are up, you know? So it's like you have to be the one to like let somebody in to feel like you have a close person, you know? It's like if your wall is up, you'll never feel like you have a close relationship, no matter even if their walls are down. You know, there's still a wall. It's just on your end, you know? So I think a lot of people that are kind of going or feeling that, you know, it's like either through trauma or, you know, through whatever reason, like they have their walls up. So like, that's going to be their experience of the world, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. And that's probably the case in my life, because I've had deep friendships from an early age. It's probably instilled a confidence in me that like, well, if I meet this new person and for some reason we can't be friends or whatever, I don't feel like, oh, I'm a bad friend or I can't make friends. Cause like, well, I've got a history. Like I've got people I've known since I was like a little kid that I'm like good friends with and I'm still friends with. And like, that confidence is in me. It's not going away because it was established young. So yeah, that's probably a good point.
Well, and I think you have an openness too. Like, you know, with the example of your grandpa and stuff, it's like, you might not have always had the way to like share or give maybe stuff inside, but like I feel like you've always had a way to receive, like or you know, to take input from people, or to take, you know, or at least listen to them and hear them out, you know. So it's like that's a level of openness that like attracts people, I think, you know, if they know you're listening, if they know that you're really like hearing them and don't have like a wall to what they're putting out, you know. So because I think with that wall, you know, it's like the people that feel like there's nobody out there, it's like it's less so maybe even a wall keeping their stuff out, but it's like because they've been hurt, it's a wall keeping other people's output from getting into them, you know. Or does that make sense? It's like they're shut off to the outside world because the outside world's hurt them so bad. And so it's like at that point, you know, like they're never going to get that close friendship they want because they're blocking off the flow from the outside world, I guess. Whereas like, I feel like you might have always been able to like give or, you know, whatever, or like express fully, but you've always been able to like take in from the outside world, I feel like. And so, and that kind of involves listening to people and being like there for people and stuff. So I think that's like always going to naturally attract people and make them feel seen, you know? So, and especially other people that have their walls down as well, I would say.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. That's a good point. Yeah. You know, I think, just being able to, you know, accept any person who is in front of you, regardless of where they're at, whatever their current persona is, whatever their situation is. Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Cool. You want to wrap it up there, man?
Yeah, man. I think that's most of my thoughts on friendship. So
everyone go friend Brandon on Facebook.
Go friend our podcast, and you know, go cry with somebody and laugh about something, and I don't know, listen to your inner voice, which is still
on who to be a friend with.
Yeah,
there you
be
go.
Friends with us.
Got enough shameless plugs for one episode.
All right. Yeah.
I'm kicking
All right.
you out
Stop
of here.
listening to us now. Yeah. All right, people. You can turn off the podcast. Bye.
All right. Take it easy, everyone.